if women are cared for as the nurturers of the world, then we will have a completely different world. You're not a slave to your mind. You work with your mind and you can direct this very powerful force in the direction of things that are supportive and expanding for you. I can't meditate. Like meditation's just not for me. And I want to challenge you on that.
Everyone, welcome back. Welcome in to the Ruthless Honest Truth podcast. My name is Josephine.k. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and today is a major day in our guest series because I have got Nina of Yiflow, realms, beauty, brains, and being. I got to meet, is honestly the way that I see it. I got to meet Nina through a rogue and a wild retreat back in 2021. Anyone who's listened to any of my podcast episodes knows that I've mentioned this retreat so many times because it really was the seed of so many different things, but mainly connections. That retreat really for me represented almost finally meeting found really inspiring and genuinely connected to. To me, Nina, I'm a friend of yours, but I'm also a fan of yours. But I would like to know, in your own words, how it is that you would like to be introduced to our podcast circle, and then we will roll from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Josie, for having me. I loved meeting you at that retreat and I immediately had a soft spot for you. I don't know, there was some connection there. We're meant to be friends. So how would I like to be introduced? I guess the whole podcast will be an introduction. I find it challenging to put certain words, but I hold space for women in many different ways. And I don't really like the label of healer. That's not really how I consider myself. I really hold space and I have certain practices that offer healing, but I don't necessarily like to slap that label on myself. So yeah, let's go with a space holder and a guide and a mirror to anyone who comes into my field.
Beautiful. So, where I would like to start is where I'm selfishly most interested is on your journey. Where did you find yourself turning towards the work that you do now? What was the tipping point and the beginning of right? I understand that in life there was a path of, I understand in life there's a path that we're kind of expected to take, but your moment of right. But let's see what else is going on here. There's something deeper happening. I want to flow with that.
Mm. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I think, is I hadn't fully turned left, but realizing when I was living and working in New York, when I had my first job, I didn't subscribe to a gym, but I subscribed to a yoga studio. And that was the beginning of really diving deep into things that I had gotten a glimpse of during my time at university, mainly meditation. And then I went to a university where I could take yoga for credit, which was excellent. So those yoga for credits classes, like I came out of those 2 hour classes completely different and was shown the possibility of what a good practice does. Fast forward, I moved to New York, lived an insane life of working in a startup in the music business, and literally being signed up to a yoga class was my way of being able to speak up and be like, I'm really sorry guys, I have to go because it's like 7:30 p.m. and I have a yoga class that I need to go to because everyone in the States is just so good at working overtime. And I wasn't trying not to do that. I ended up moving to London with that job. More insanity ensued in terms of working hours and having no boundaries. And I was not subscribed to the yoga studio when I moved to London. I completely lost myself. And then the startup was acquired and I was made redundant. And that's when things kind of started to I started asking myself a lot of questions. I tried to do the whole, okay, I'll apply for jobs thing. I was also a keen singer-songwriter at the time, so I was trying to write all of my music, and then once I've got stuff recorded and have material, then I would be gigging while having my job. That was the plan. I wrote no songs because I was quite depressed, frankly, and had so much writer's block because the level of self-criticism was so high that the process of creating was excruciatingly painful. And I don't want to say I gave up because I actually, maybe it's I gave in, but I realized one day that no one fundamentally cared if my music wasn't written. It's okay. And I was putting all this pressure on myself. Like, oh my God, I went to music school. I've been talking about this for years. I've been singing since I'm a teenager. Like, this is what's, expected because I had put out that expectation for myself. And the minute I said, oh, well, I don't have to do this right now, it was like whew, this massive opening field where everything became possible. And then the second thing, I guess the decision that I made after going through multiple interviews and trying to get that next job, I realized and I made a promise to myself that I didn't want to be working in an office. I speak several languages. I love to be with people. And whilst I'm good at, whatever it was I was doing at the time, marketing, I was working in ticketing, that startup I mentioned, and I was good at those things. But what I learned during that experience is that it's not because you're good at something that you necessarily have to keep doing it. Like we're very skilled people. There's a lot that we can do. If you give me something to do, I'll probably do it. I'll do it well because I care and I'm a bit of a perfectionist in recovery, but still. And so I decided I didn't want to be in an office. And so I got a barista job, did a bit of that. That was also frustrating in many ways. I found my boundaries, I found my no. And then I ended up at a meditation studio. And that's when things really, and I should add during that time as well, there was a more yoga studio that was opening locally to me. And they had a great founding members membership for the month, unlimited classes. And whilst I was jobless and dropping my identity of being a singer-songwriter and kind of allowing that dream to dissolve, I just told myself the only thing I need to do every day is just go to one yoga class. If I've done that, then I've done a great job and I've succeeded today. So that's kind of what I guess altogether, to not answer very succinctly, but that's when I started being like, okay, I don't want to be working in an office. I want to be with people. Ended up at the meditation studio. Very grateful for the yoga practice I had found and realized that I wanted to do a teacher training. And then I went to India, thinking I was just going to come home and teach vinyasas in London. And I came home and it was like, not vinyasa. So it was, the training was so much greater than what I had no idea. I had seen it on a teacher that was working at the studio on her Instagram. She had been there. I hadn't really spoken about it with her. I just saw it and I was like, yep, that's where I'm going. I knew I wanted something authentic. I knew I wanted to go to Rishikesh in northern India. But looking for your yoga teacher training is a job in and of itself. I don't know if anyone's been through that experience, but it's a lot. There's a lot to sift through and a lot to figure out. And thank goodness my best friend Sonia came with me. And yeah, and I came home and I mean my life fundamentally changed there really. And that purpose of wanting to teach, that's really what was awakened in me. I was offered a promotion at the studio where I worked, and I said no. I was happy to stay where I was because I wanted to really pursue teaching. So I think I'll pause there. Yeah.
You know that I'm obsessed with the backstory. What I'd love to tap into there is the piece you were saying around expectations.
Hmm.
Because I know that I've moved through this, and so many other people have, in that we hold the expectation of what we should be doing. And even if we have cognitively moved away, I notice in myself and so many other people that it's still there held. So the invitation's there if you would want to kind of expand on your experience of dissolving that expectation.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation to dive deeper into that because I think we do this in so many micro and macro moments, right? We're trying to hold up something that we once said we would do, or and realizing that we have the choice to change. To be honest, writing the music, writing the songs was, it really was like a friction. I was really trying to do something that simply wasn't happening. I didn't have the level of kind of diligence to practice my instrument in terms of my guitar, which is what I would use to write songs. I only picked up the guitar when I graduated from music school. My instrument was always music, but I was like too stubborn to get lessons. I just thought, oh, well, if I can doodle around, like that's good enough and I can write songs. Anyways, I didn't really give myself the support that I could have, that I would have needed, I think, at the time. And now in hindsight, I can see like, wow, yeah, my self-talk and my level of self-criticism was just so high. And I don't know. I mean, it must, like most things, you think you wake up one day and you have this insight, but it's a gradual thing that leads you to that insight one day, where I really just realized, and this isn't, I'm saying this in the most loving way possible. It's like, no one cares. Like, no one cares. Like, stop overthinking this. No one cares. Now I have even more hindsight, and it's interesting how I did come back to the voice, but in a completely different way with singing. And this is where, now I can really say, like, what's for you will not pass you by, and to allow iterations of things to just move through you. So I feel like I was going against the flow and to just let it go, release it. And it's interesting because then when I started teaching yoga, people would say, oh, I love your voice. Do you have a podcast I can listen to? Your voice
Me
is
all
so
the time.
calming. Like the pangs were coming and incessantly, like your voice, your voice, your voice. So, yeah. And I haven't written songs since, but the desire is there. And now I'm not so pushy about it. It's like when it needs to come, it will. Of
Mhm.
course, you need to set yourself up for it, but also life will take you there. I trust that if I need to write songs again, the inspiration will come, the mindset where I'm not self-critical and I can find acceptance for what emerges. Because that's the thing, I would write something and hate it, and then use that as like a tool to hate myself. It's not a good place to be.
I find a lot of your work very interesting, Nina, but I really love that you are someone who lives in presence and is a spiritual person who is in the world. I know so many people who like get super into spirituality and then kind of like become fragmented from living, whereas you live in the middle of London and through your work provide city women go-getters, like the people you have at your circles. I'm always there, like I am in the vibe right now because there's such a mix. And so many of my friends that don't go to circles and have projections of I can't go to a circle because XYZ, always I'm like, just come to my friend Nina's spaces because you will see that you are going to be mirrored, seen, heard, and held here. And so, with your circles, how did you find that journey of recognizing that you want to teach, to facilitate, and share? So, going from recognition to, okay, now I'm doing this.
Hmm. So again, back to this meditation studio where I worked, I met a woman called Anushka. She's on Instagram as the Goddess Space. And that's where I first came across women's circles. And I would have such deep experiences. And then when lockdown came, and I just really admire her. Still to this day, she's moved away and stuff, but it's like, Anushka, if you're listening, I just love you. And during lockdown, she did a 4-week women's circle training online. And I thought, well, this is a great time to get into this. I don't know if at the time, I think it was like, oh, maybe one day I could do this. But I don't think it was that intentional in a way, almost. I don't know. I just signed up for this thing and I did it. I showed up for it. And then I held my first circle online. I mean, bless old me. I was trying to weave it in with the yogic goddesses and like put in a theme. And, anyways, I was trying to do this whole thing and people showed up. I'm so grateful. And I had a panic attack the next day because I thought it was terrible, even though I had really nice feedback. I was voice noting my friend as I was walking through the park the next day, and by the end of the voice note, as I was retelling how the circle went, I literally was like, had to take all my clothes off. My heart was palpitating. I was like about to pass out. I was like, whoa, okay, I think this is a full-blown panic attack. I had such a kind of hangover from that experience. And so I don't know, then when we were able to come to meet a little bit more in between the million lockdowns we had, I think it was 4 years ago now, that summer, I think I must have started holding space in my flat. And I had given my flat to a friend of mine at the time to hold her events. And then I realized I can hold my events. It was like a switch moment where I was kind of giving the space out for others to hold space. And then I realized, oh, like I can do this here. Like this is my home. And so the circles were triangles to begin with, as I like to say. I just started, and Anushka was an amazing guide and inviting us to do it our way. I think one of the main things that I keep from that training, especially, was like, because I was always impressed, I'm like, how do you manage the time? How do you manage?
Mm.
You don't know how long the shares are going to be. How do you manage, like, how do you keep this container contained when it could go in so many infinite ways? And I remember she said something like, have a structure. You need like that masculine container, but you also need space in that structure for things to flow. So have an outline, but then you need to be able to dance with the space in a way, you know? So yeah, I guess I started holding my circles based, with the moon. And I think they were once a month to begin with, and then twice a month. And sometimes I canceled them because no one was there. But it was this consistency in, right, I'm holding the circles. This is a place where women can come and gather. And it's been 4 years now, and now the circles are booking up in advance, like way in advance. So,
As they should be. So, what I'd love to know for someone listening who's never been to a circle, but they are someone who's seeking a place to connect and be with other people, maybe they are having some realizations in their life, they're seeking support, they're recognizing that they're wanting community there, and they've heard of this concept of a woman's circle. How would you do you want to describe within your realm what that is, the experience in whatever way feels right for you?
mm, thank you for that. I live in a universe where I think everyone knows what a women's circle is.
You
This is not
do.
true. This is not true. So thank you for allowing me to explain. So the women's circles as well that I hold have evolved since I've started. Obviously, the yogic goddess situation was just the one time because I was like, this is I'm making this too complex. Keep it simple. This is one thing I've learned as well. I've really learned that complexity doesn't mean better. Simple is valuable. So that's been something that has anchored me and stopped me from going into spirals of self-doubt and self-criticism. So keeping it simple. Now, since I've also picked up the sound healing element over the last 2 years, that's now weaved into the space. So there's a million circles, everyone will hold a different circle, and every circle is different, but there is a structure to it, as I was saying, that masculine container, where there's a grounding meditation. We connect with an opening sort of sharing circle. You share your name. Sometimes there's a prompt around the kind of energy that we're moving through. So I would have spoken to the new moon or the full moon and what's happening energetically and the themes that we might be moving through collectively. So that kind of gives, I call it like the cosmic weather report. It like gives people some context for like, oh, this is why I'm feeling like this, or maybe this is why this is happening in my life. It kind of, that's how I've used astrology in my life. And so I just share from my experience and from the things that I read. I'm still not an astrologer, though I'll get there one day. I just have a huge passion for it. So I share that. We do a sharing circle, and so often we resonate with what someone shares. The circle is also maybe a place where someone shares something and you feel triggered by that. But the invitation is to witness that within yourself. Why are you triggered? And we live in this society that is constantly pitting women against each other, constantly putting this sort of sense of lack in our mindset. There's not enough beauty, not enough jobs, not enough men, not enough youth, not enough insert whatever you want. So the circle is really a place to like democratize, bring everything together in this one level playing field. It doesn't matter how old you are, what's your background, where you come from. We are living in this world as women and we will have things in common. And you might sit in a circle with women you'll never see again in your life. But for that moment in time, for those 2.5 hours, there's a deep sense of weaving and connecting there. And I love seeing the bookings come through because, as my friend Jess says, she says, we've already gathered in the ether and now it's the manifestation of that. We're here now and the bookings come through and it's like the energy is being woven and then we're here together and we all come here with lessons and messages for each other. So something one woman might say might be the medicine that I need to hear that day, and vice versa. So the invitation is for you to share freely and authentically, and for this to be a place where you don't need to hold up a mask, you don't need to hold up responsibility. As women, we are such natural caregivers. We're the nurturers of the world. That's just how we roll. And this is a place for you to receive and to be seen and to be held. And it's not like a brunch session where we're giving each other advice. You're literally sharing to share. And I think that's the tenet of the women's circle, right? It's like the fundamental. It's that even if you resonate with someone, there's no like, oh my God, yeah, me too. And if someone triggers you, you're not gonna like come at her, just listen. We practice listening. It's not just the sharing, it's active listening as well. So don't get overthinking in your head, what am I going to share? What am I going to share? And I get that because I've been there. But really be present and listen to what this woman is saying. And then when it comes to you, you can take a deep breath in and share in this moment of time what is true for you and what you want to share. After we do that, I like to weave in some plants that I love to work with, some great allies, whether it's cacao or rose or blue lotus. Those are the 3 plants that I like to work with. And I intuitively pick them based on the moon cycle, on what's going on. I will introduce the plant, we will drink it together. Sometimes I guide it, but mostly in silence because I want that to be a place where you come back to yourself after all the sharing and come back to your intention, and then you lie down for the sound bath. After the sound bath, we do another check-in, we pull some cards. I like to share some oracle cards, and then we do one final closing share. So that's the format of the circle, just to be very methodical about it. And it's always the same format, but no 2 circles are ever the same.
Mm. I feel like I've just reattended. As you were explaining to me, I was like running through my being at your circles in my head.
What is your experience?
My experience of your circles is beforehand, I'll be like getting the train and I'll be like, there's a part of me that's like, I need a Nina circle. And there's that slight hesitancy because I don't know what's going to happen. But there's also the recognition and the understanding that when I get to yours, there's that real sense of welcoming and no performance, which I think is, and I do want to speak, like follow that thread further with you, especially with like music and the performance aspect of music versus the presence of what it is that you're generating and providing now. But for me, the circles are that invitation to be so present, to be given the gift of you now simply get to listen and you get to hear the insights to these women that I know that I wouldn't meet otherwise. Seemingly random strangers, but everyone's there because on some level we hold the same interest, value, essence, and just hearing about people's lives. And when someone has a shift that they want to share, it's like, oh my gosh, like I'd have never got to that point myself without you giving that to me. Like it's like a spiritual Christmas. but really felt. It's not airy fairy either. Everything's held. And you know what I love? How clearly boundaried the space is. Because I know that I sometimes struggle with that. And a lot of people I know struggle with that is that we quite like structured socializing, activity based socializing, where you're not kind of sat in a restaurant like, so there's tracks that
Mhm.
we're following, which you then very beautifully give space to. So you can, like you say, you can connect and then go back into yourselves. And even if you're there with people that you know, there's still that understanding of we are together, but as ourselves here. Like you're here instead of normal socializing, which is all very like head up.
Mm.
But with that realm of moving away from performing into presence, how have you found that experience of moving away from saying what you feel like you should say, doing like you feel like you should do, into, okay, I'm feeling really called to give space to this, to be present to this?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful invitation to be invited on a podcast like this and to go through the journey. Back to that releasing of what's expected. I think this is such a reoccurring theme, and it's this I guess it's getting into that flow, right? And we can talk about like what allows me to get into the flow, or how I've kind of gotten into that place. Of course, I used to prepare so much, so diligently for the circle, but again, coming back to the wisdom of the circle is that I don't know how it's going to go. Maybe someone comes and has a massive release and a breakthrough, and we need to just be present for that, and that might take 20 minutes. Okay, so we're there for it. That's fine. And trusting, like supreme trust of everything about how this is unfolding is the way that it's supposed to unfold. There's almost no preparing for that, right? It's just this constant letting go, knowing that we have this structure. Please remind me what I'm supposed to answer. I'm just talking.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't even have, I often say, like, if an answer's not flowing from a question, shit question. But
Performance,
shifting away from like the training of like musical performance and
yes.
da 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 da, I'm here to that's
Yeah,
it, as opposed to right, I am being here now.
yes.
Hi, hello
Yes.
everyone.
I grew up singing since I was 11, being on stage. I was doing all the musical theater plays, all the things on stage, every parent weekend, singing, doing the thing, performing, performing, performing. With the release of that singer-songwriter kind of vibe, I then slowly, it was like a dissolution again and again and again. I allowed myself to drop the guitar and have no instruments. And I think this is where like I think I just started with like a drone or something. I was just wanting to use my voice. And this is where mantra really kind of brought me back to the voice. It's like chanting mantra because of my training, going to kirtans and using the voice and realizing the more I figured out how to actually land in my body, because I wasn't in my body for the first, I don't know how many years of my life, like realizing what singing actually does
Mm.
and the vibration, like actually feeling the voice vibrate and reverberate in my body. Even though I'd been singing all of those years, I had never had that experience. Like singing became very heady,
Mm.
especially because I went to university for it. It became my instrument, and my passion became my craft, but it became my job. And all of a sudden, it was rigid. It wasn't my escape. You know, as a teenager, singing was my escape and my release space. And then when I went to university, it's like you've got classes, you've got exams, you've got auditions, you're going to be graded, you're going to be judged. Literally, you're going to be told, okay, that's enough now. You're like, I haven't even gotten to my peak point. And they're like, we've seen enough. Thank you. Um, it's a really strengthening place to be, really challenging. I started just using my voice and then singing with like crystal bowl tracks in the background. And at first it was very like, just oohs and ahs. And then my husband got me some crystal bowls and was like, enough already. Here are some bowls. Have at it. And it wasn't immediate with the bowls either. I don't know, it just kind of started slowly with, I found myself in a comfortable space again to share my voice when people were like half gone, halfway through the sound healing. So I play the bowls for about 20 minutes,
Yes.
30 minutes. People are like, okay, I'm kind of gone. And then I sing. And I never used to tell people this when I started. I'm like, yeah, so we do crystal bowls and la la la. I sing, and then at the end, we'll go to the final sharing in the circle, and someone, after like 7 shares, someone will be like, oh my God, and your voice? And then 3 other people who've already shared, they're like, wait, was that your voice? Because that sounded like a recording. And it's just, this is the constant feedback that I get, which is amazing. And now I've started to say, I'm gonna also sing. It's like coming out of hiding, It's like, okay, announcing myself, like I use my voice as well as this crystal bowls. And there have been people who have inspired me. Kate Fleur Young, she's an incredible sound practitioner. If you're in London, you might have probably heard of her. She's doing amazing things. And she probably doesn't know this. I haven't told her. These people that we call expanders, I don't know if you're familiar with that term. We need to witness things in our field to realize the possibilities for ourselves. And so I'm grateful for the people who are using their voice, who have showed me that if voice is one of my tools through teaching, yeah, that's using the voice. But it's not just like being on stage, doing my Whitney Houston thing when I was a teenager, to then doing my singer-songwriter Laura Marling wannabe, and then dissolving everything, releasing all instruments, and letting the voice be the main instrument. It's a real interesting thing because I actually never used to practice enough, going back to what I was saying about the guitar. Even as a singer, like I didn't practice enough because I never felt safe enough to practice, because if someone could maybe hear me practice, there was no way I was going to practice. Like I needed a soundproof room, and that obviously was not something that was accessible. So I didn't practice as much as I really ought to have practiced. And now it blows my mind to witness my growth and to be able to say that, like, now I hold 4 or 5, depending on the week, 6 sound healings a week, and I'll sing in all of them. And every time it's a complete improvisation. It's like a live practice. It's the complete antithesis of, like, I used to never be able to riff or practice because the fear of being heard. And now I do it almost every day with
So
strangers.
what did you notice was the movements made to go from that fear of being heard to now doing, which is very impressive. You're my expander. I also want to assert 6 classes a week on alongside the work that you're doing. We're going to get into it, guys, but the work with the daily practice online as well as the circles. So that shift from resistance with being heard to now weaving it into the classes that you're using.
I started to realize the woman with who I birthed my shamanic drum, she said something to me that really resonated when I was describing to her what I try to do when I'm singing, which is to not be in my head.
Mm.
So my head and my musical background will go, oh, you should like do this riff, or you should go to this note, or you should do this melody. And I'm constantly trying to be like, nope, in the body, let the voice run. You can't really manage the river and how it's going to flow. Like, you just need to trust. And sometimes I'll do things that I'm like, I could never make that up with my head. You know what I mean? So it's this constant, it's very somatic. It's being in the body. It's like, okay, what feels like wants to come through now? And my brain tries to get involved, and I'm like, no, 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 that's nice, but not right now.
Mm.
Just stay there. And so Sally, this woman, she said to me, she's like, yes, in shamanism, we call it becoming the hollow bone. And I was like, yes, this is it.
Ah.
I become empty so that I can become an instrument. We're all instruments, but this is like, the more I can get my brain out of the way, get that headspace out there, get into my body so that I can be a vessel for spirit to just move through me and to serve and trust that whatever is being sung, whatever is being transmitted in this space right now, in this class tonight, I'm going to teach my 2 classes, whatever's going to come through, that's what needs to come through for the people that are in the room.
Mm.
And I'm not clairvoyant, but it's like there's all of this weaving going on with different people in the room. And that's why I always say with the circle, it's a co-creation. It's not just me. Like, it's all of us creating the circle. And that's why they're always different. And every sound healing will be different because it's who are the people in the room? Like, what are their energies? What are they carrying? What that informs what will then be transmitted. An astrologer I love, Francesca Oddi, I think she's the one who said this. Not every day has the same ingredients. You can't bake the same cake every day. So it's trusting that the ingredients of the day are the ingredients of the day, and you get to bake that cake of the day, and it's a special every day.
It's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It goes back to that expectation thing. I'm not going to have all these expectations. I'm just showing up for the moment and doing my very best with this moment. Sometimes I'm singing, my voice will go funny, my voice will crack, I'll say, okay, this is what we got. It's all good. So much trust. Trust and know it's fine. It's fine.
So, for somebody listening who's feeling into this and they recognize that they're spending a lot of time in their mind, in the brain, within the circles and the spaces that you facilitate, what are some of your favorite pathways to support people moving from brain into the body?
This is where the yogic practices come in. And the yogic practice here in the West, we think is so much just yoga asana, which is the physical postural yoga,
Mm.
which is what I really connected with in the first place, because I think it's like it's the grossest level, right? It's the physical level, the material form of the self. And when we're not able to access the more subtle spaces because we're so in our head, that's that point of entry is the body. So cool. We do yoga asana. That's where I started. Then I went to India and I was introduced to something called Kriya Yoga, which I had never heard of before until I practiced it every morning for like 2, 3 hours and then training. And that completely changed the game. It's the breath practice paired with mantra, paired with movement, paired with deep intention. And these are deep energetic practices that help accelerate things. So where you might need half an hour to warm up the body with a postural yoga, you could do a kriya and be warmed up in like 5 minutes. The pranayama practices, the breath work, the kriya practices, the mantra, and then something that, my teacher really emphasized as well, yoga is also correcting the intellect.
Mm.
And I love that phrase, we need to correct the intellect. And the silent witness meditation is like witness what is going on in your mind. And when you can witness, then you can become aware. And once we have awareness, then we can choose. And from choosing, then the shifts become available, become possible. If you're in your head, you don't know how to get into the body, move the body,
Mm.
definitely, and get into some breath practice. And that's like the pathway of marrying, it's like from the body into the more subtle states and realizing that there's a breath for everything. There's a breath to activate, there's a breath to regulate. Start creating a little toolbox of tools that you can then tap into. That's what I would suggest. Mantra is quite literally a tool to harness the mind. You might have a lot of judgments come up, you might have a lot of self-criticism about your voice. Go to a kirtan. Find a kirtan, go with a friend, and have no expectation, and just go and see what happens. Mantra is a tool to like completely harness the mind and get into your heart. Go to a kirtan and tell me you don't feel heart expanded. It's literally that's what it will do. And when you're chanting in Sanskrit as well, Sanskrit, you can find a million translations for different mantras, but Sanskrit is a language that holds the meaning in the vibration itself. So it's not like English, like hello means what it means. It's the vibration itself that holds the meaning. There's a word for it that escapes me now. Some people are like, well, I don't know what this means. I'm like, you don't need to know what it means.
Mm.
Just chant it. Just try it on for size. I think that's just a great little affirmation, a little phrase to remember. It's like, try it on for size. Try it on. It might not be for you, but try it. And something else my teacher really emphasized as well, experiment. What happens if you do this breath for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes? Be a student of your own experience. No one can tell you, and only teach from your experience. And I think that's the main thing that I take with the circles, with everything, with the I trust this moment in time and how this class or this transmission is going to go through. It's like I can only teach from my experience. When you share, that there's no performance, it's an authentic space when you come to the circles. I'm not pretending that I've got everything figured out. I'm very much a human being on this planet Earth at this crazy time, figuring it out as we go. And I've got some tools that I love to share with you because they've helped me. But by all means, one of my biggest fears is people putting me on a pedestal. I'm finding a balance now. I think for a long time I was like actually like pushing myself down. And now it's like, I'm just here, guys. But also, don't idolize anyone. Don't put them on a pedestal because you are your greatest, teacher, and like study your own experience. Oh, when I don't sleep, this is how I feel. When I read this kind of content, this is how I feel. When I'm scrolling my social media, this is how I feel. Be a witness. This is what we're practicing in the meditation every morning. Create that space where you can become aware. And then from there, you can mold things. You can have more intention. And then you move in the direction of flow. You move in the direction of your calling. You move in the direction of what is fundamentally right for you, which is completely different to what's right for me.
I love it so much. Yeah, what I'd like to bring awareness to is the daily practice that you're offering online. So,
Mm-hmm.
full disclosure, everyone, me and Nina did a one-on-one sadhana in November time. I struggled with it. And I had this real, at the time, was experiencing this resistance to showing up for me by myself. So when Nina announced, hello, everyone. I'm taking the daily practice online group format every morning at 7:30 a.m. on Zoom for 21 days. I'm there. I'm 100% there. I was about to say I can't explain. I could explain in great detail, Nina, how much of a shift it has been. Whereas in the past, there'd be such a resistance, and I held the story. I'm not consistent. I can't sit still. I'm chaotic. By really buying into that storyline every night now, I'm oh my God, I cannot wait to wake up at 7 a.m., do my thing, be ready at 7:30 a.m. I can't wait to get uncomfortable with it. Sometimes I'm uncomfortable. I can't wait to be doing it with other people. The level of a difference it's made across everything is so profound from doing our half an hour practice every day. So if you would wish to, I'd really love if we could explore more the daily practice, your intentions with it, and what you would like people to understand about that, because this is now something that you are offering on a rolling basis moving forward. I just want everyone to get involved.
I want everyone to get involved. Yeah, thank you for sharing your experience as well. Just to kind of bring everyone on the same page, sadhana is what the daily practice is essentially called. It's daily spiritual practice. That's the word for it in Sanskrit, and I that's what I called my offering that I've been doing for again about 4 years, one-on-one with people, which is this container of 21 or also 40 days. Most people went for 21. That's already amazing. And I've guided dozens and dozens of women through this practice. That's all personalized to them based on where they are in life. But then over the years, I've realized there are so many themes. Women come to me with the same things, similar things. The time that people have every day to realistically dedicate is quite similar. So I thought, okay, let's do a group thing. The other thing is, and I think it's a reflection of my own journey and I was thinking about this the other day. I used to do everything one on one because I think that was a reflection of my own journey as well, and believing that we need to do things on our own for so long.
Mm.
And I think this is why now I'm able to offer the daily practice as a group format, because I'm so aware that you can only do so much work in your solo little cave. And don't get me wrong, one-to-one work is so needed, but you also have to do the work together in community, and being the, having those mirrors and being on this collective journey together. The daily practice, as Josie said, is the space where we gather for 21 days. The practice always starts on a new moon around that time, and it's themed to the astrological season that we're in. Obviously, I'm going to weave in the astrology. So every season is so different, from Aries to Taurus to Gemini, etc. So, and again, it's like keep it simple, stupid. You know that acronym? KISS. And it's just, okay, I'm going to use the astrology, the themes of the season to inform the practice that we're going to do. So we can tap into those energetics. So every single month will be different. Aries, fierce practice we've been doing, uncomfortable, and you've all been smashing it. So impressive. And yes, that resistance is met. And there is so much gold in like waking up, facing your resistance, but just keeping that promise to yourself. And this is something that you think it's just about the daily practice, but it's actually not. It ripples into everything else that you do in your life. So when you practice consistency with something like the daily practice, you're cultivating that devotion, that consistency. You're creating that sense of safety within yourself that when you say you're going to do something, you actually follow through and do it. Your nervous system is like, yes, please. And that space allows you to then show up for other things in your life that you might get into procrastination mode about, you might get into self-doubt about, but because you're cultivating these qualities of devotion, consistency, of meeting the resistance, of witnessing your mind telling you a million reasons why you don't need to show up today, it's fine, but you still do, that thought pattern will show up in a million different other ways in your day. And you can witness it, you can almost sense it coming from a mile away and be like, I see you, and I'm still going to do the thing because I said I was going to do it. And I think that's really valuable quality to cultivate in our world that is so full of distraction, that is, constantly trying to pull us out of our center. And to start the day getting yourself anchored into your breath, into your body, into your stillness through the meditation, to realize that yes, every day is a different day, different ingredients. And sometimes you sit in your meditation and you're like, oh, kind of still. And some days you sit and it's like, whoa, not still at all. But the point is not to be still and to be void of thought. You have a beautiful mind, it's there to think. But to be able to witness it then creates a sense of empowerment, because you're not a slave to your thoughts. You're not a slave to your mind. You work with your mind, and you can direct this very powerful force in the direction of things that are supportive and expanding for you. Not towards, I'm constantly distracted, I'm constantly giving my attention away. Attention is the most valuable currency we have. And I love that in the English language, and it's not in every language like that, we literally pay attention. It's a currency, and it's expensive. When we're paying attention in the wrong places over time, compounding that day after day, what does that do?
Create tension.
Mm. And a life that maybe you wake up from one day and you're like, wait, what have I been doing? Have I been ignoring the calling, the nudge, the whispers? Have I been blind to the million signs that are coming at me and I'm just not paying attention? So the daily practice, that's the intention. And my intention is that initially it's like, oh, I've never done this thing where I meditate for 21 days. But my supreme vision for this is that this just becomes a way of doing, that I'm building this community of women who wake up in the morning, know that they're worth taking time for themselves. That's the other thing. It's like, everyone, I don't have the time. You don't make the time. You got to be honest with yourself. Do you scroll half an hour on your phone? Probably more. You've got time. And even if you can't show up for half an hour, show up for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, and that will grow and that will become part of your day. And that's my intention, is for people to learn practices. That toolbox that I mentioned earlier, that's the whole point as well. I don't need to give you the description because you're learning through the practice, through your own experience, and you're embodying these practices. So even if we move on to another theme and a different set of practices, that Hat Kriya we've been practicing, you know how to practice it, and you're going to be able to come back to it in a moment in time where you're like, wow, I need to harness my voice. I need to find my courage. I need to find that inner fire in me. Practice your Hat Kriya. And then in 2 weeks, when we start the practice for Taurus season, it'll be much more sensual and much more grounding and soft and feminine, because that is the Taurus vibe, right? I think I've answered all the questions.
And what I'd like to add on top, because I think it's very interesting that we moved from 2019 living our lives. Life was happening, we were doing our things, and then we move into like 2020 realms where it did feel like the heat was turned up, but so many of us had that moment of awakening, reckoning, remembering, seeking community online. And so many of us did head online and found access to so many communities. And I think this is what I find so interesting about your offerings is that you have really, this kind of was like crass, but you've really nailed in person,
Mm.
like the in person group community, which for you feels like it came naturally, but also you really have spent your attention cultivating that. And then I also love that you're now going, right, like for me, I do live quite far away from you. So as much as I want to be at the circles, I don't always make the time to make it up there. So knowing now that I have access to Nina World again is so brilliant. And with like the online circles that you do and the online practice, it's as if I am in your space. Like, sure, I'm in my bedroom, but I'm with you. I'm with the 6 other women that we are journeying with. And I think it's such a gift because, like you were saying, so much. And I think there's a big projection there, working on yourself is selfish. Everyone benefits. All right, guys, everyone benefits. We're all winning here.
Mm-hmm.
Having the opportunity to do the one on one practice, great, we love. But I really adore the gift you're giving me of every morning by 8 a.m. I've actually already been in space with other women. Whereas normally that just doesn't happen. I wake up, I go outside, and then I'm by myself, which just is isolating. So I really like that you're giving people the space that while we are committed to the journey and the dream and, making things happen, you're showing up with and also some space for you and being with other people. You're welcome. It's brilliant.
Mm. It changes the trajectory of the day, and doing things for 21 days, there's so much science behind it as well. But it's that sense of connection to others and connection to self, and then, witnessing like how differently might the day unfold if I hadn't, like our practice is pretty fierce. And so how many times have I not wanted to go to the gym when I first wake up, when I first open my eyes? And then after the practice, I'm like, oh, I'm absolutely going to the gym. Like, no doubt. By 8:30, I was on that spinning bike, that's the thing. So it changes things.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting so much more day now. What I do like about myself is once I've locked in, I'm not clocking out. Like I'm not going to miss a day because that feels safe for me to just let myself show up every day.
Hmm.
There's not really even a question to that. It's more like an assertion, but
I
a
love that about
huge,
yourself.
You mean, I'm really grateful that you've made it happen because it's easier not to. I think that's a topic I find so fascinating is that we live in a world which really prescribes and on a surface level encourages live by your values, have dreams, make things happen. But we also live in a world where it's never been easier to simply, instead of being a soul-led person, to get sold into someone else's agenda, even like the obvious one of like, wake up, go on your phone, rack up their advertising, cash in on social media. But it's just really fascinating that something as seemingly simple as the daily practice really is such an unlock of agency and responsibility. And I think that's a thread that I would want to explore further with you next is this thread of responsibility.
Mm.
A lot of the times we can hear responsibility and be like, ah, pretty scary. But responsibility and ability to respond. So within your own experience of yes, softening into life, how have you then weaved in responsibility into, okay, but my dreams, my goals, the service I want to bring into the world? Here's how I'm going to marry the flow and the structure of where you are now and what you're moving into.
For sure. The thing is, when you are working for yourself, as you know, like no one tells you when to do anything. And the women that are in my field are, there's all kinds of women, women who are employed, women who are self-employed. It's all over the board, all kinds of ages, all kinds of backgrounds. But it's really this, whether you're employed or not, it's that this responsibility for your life. Like you're not a victim to your circumstances. And if you don't like something, then remembering that it's in your power to change it. It might take time. It might be super uncomfortable. You might have to face all of the fears that you've ever felt in your life. But ultimately, there is always a choice. And when we realize there's a choice, that's when we can feel empowered. It's so disempowering when we let ourselves think that I don't have the choice. The minute you go, oh, but I don't have the choice, you're in a disempowered space. So notice when that comes up and then say, okay, but what do I have the choice to do? If I don't like this, I can change that. I don't like how dependent I am on the classes that I have in London, on the in-person spaces that I have to hold to earn my living. I would like to move more online so that I can have more freedom of location and also access more people. I want to share this with more people. So the sadhana, the whole one-on-one offering and the whole discipline of the daily practice, well, initially it came from my training. After the training, it's like you're going to do your 40 days. Yes or yes, that's what's happening. During lockdown, I did another online training, a 50-hour Tantric Hatha training online. And again, that was very much at the end of that, it was like design your own Tantric Hatha practice. So that's postural yoga, and then at the end was Kriya. But design your own sequence, practice it every day for 40 days. And during that sadhana came the idea for the sadhana offering. And this is the other thing that was my experience, and maybe I hope that to be the experience for others, is that my time in daily practice is almost my most productive time of the day. Because it's when I sift through stuff. It's when I realize what ingredients I have to play with today. If I'm super anxious, distracted, if there's something emotionally going on in my life, I feel a bit shaky, a bit unstable, I'm not going to expect myself to power through a million items on my to-do list. This is where you have to meet the day and exercise that sense of self-compassion. And sometimes it's like, okay, if I have a deadline, then I need to just kind of push through a little bit and like move past my resistance. But how can I do that softly and not like whipping myself, you know? So the daily practice is that place where I get to cultivate that kind of sacred masculine energy of like, I'm showing up for the thing. Yes or yes. It doesn't really matter how I feel. I'm showing up for the thing. And I mean, for me, I've done a million sadhanas myself. But again, like you, it's like, oh, well, I can just do it at 11 a.m. or at 3 p.m. Like, it's fine in between clients, in between classes. I'll just get it done that day. Now it's a flex even for me to be like, nope, you're going to be on Zoom doing the thing live every morning for women to join you in, in community. And so it's a massive game changer. And for me, kind of getting into that discipline energy first thing in the morning really allows me to harness that energy for the rest of the day. And that's where I'm more productive, I'm more creative. I have, it's a capacity to do that is greater. Like what I used to be able to do in a day was so small compared to what I'm now able to do. And because these practices expand our energy, it expands your capacity to hold energy, you know? And so if life is coming at you in full force with all kinds of happenings, because that's life, you're able to meet the moment with greater ease. And it might be uncomfortable, but because you practice being in discomfort, you're kind of like, okay, but we know this, it's okay. And your nervous system can still feel safe even if we're uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's like because you're choosing, for me with the practice, because I'm choosing to be there, then I'm choosing to be uncomfortable. So later on the day when discomfort naturally arises, exactly like you say, it's way less how it used to be for a very long time. Oh my God, I'm uncomfortable, right? Shut down. Yesterday, I was at the sink getting some more water. And it was this really surreal moment of I don't feel very depressed. I don't feel necessarily like heavy. Cool, because things have already been moved and shifted and expressed that day. We've already made really sounds. We've already moved. There's so often, again, we're in the realm, so we forget, but people think, meditation is just sitting and being almost at the behest of your brain, when really what I'm experiencing there is that we are showing up and we are doing things, we are moving, we're expressing. So many problems link back to the suppression that so many of us naturally find ourselves called to. Whereas this is that reclamation of no, I'm going to choose how we're starting the day now. And doing it together to me is the shift. Like, I'm so glad that you've had all the moments that you've had that's led to deciding to hold it every day and do it publicly, to sending the email, to launching it, to doing the back end, the payment, like all of these micro steps that no one ever sees. But we're all so grateful that you've done it because yes, you're benefiting. I'm benefiting more. No offense, Nina. Like, I'm screaming in the results from you making it happen.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to that thing that you were saying about meditation because we need to prepare for meditation. And when most people, the thing they get, or what you might be listening to this and go, well, I can't meditate. Like meditation's just not for me.
Me.
And I want to challenge you on that.
Yeah.
You haven't prepared yourself for meditation. In the yogic practices, meditation is the end. You do your asana practice, you do your physical postural practice, you do your energy practice with the breath, with Kriya. You move all of this stuff around, and then you sit. And this, again, it's like you want to like shortcut because everything is a hack these days,
Mm.
in our world, especially in the West, like we can't really deal with complexity, so we strip everything out, right? That's why yoga is just apparently stretching. No, my friends. It's very different. And it's because of your presence and it's because of your breath and your intention. That's what differentiates like just moving your body and actually doing yoga, practicing yoga, should I say. So you have to prepare for this stuff, which is why the meditation is at the end, after we've done our breath, after we've done our movement, our chanting, whatever the practice might be. And then you're able to get into that space, which is not necessarily still, but
Mm.
you need to kind of like remove the cobwebs of the day. You need to shake the blanket and see all the dust kind of fluff around and then be in that space. So we need to prepare for meditation. It's not like, okay, I'm going to finish scrolling for the last 45 minutes because I've not been doing my meditation. I'm guilty of that sometimes too, but I sit down and I go, okay, I'm going to meditate now. No, you can do your breath work, shift your energy literally so that you can come into a space of witness. I'm not going to witness anything if I've just witnessed Instagram for an hour. Like, that is not going to be helpful. So, the breath is fundamental. Breath is everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that if I've there's that big question, isn't it, of like, oh, how do we reduce our screen time? Option A, daily practice. Because I notice that if I have, when I have, not if, when I have been overly screening up and then I go to shift into an internal practice, my brain replays what I've just been consuming as a relief without realizing that my brain has been now is like, well, now I need to process it. Now you're taking time and stillness. I'm going to make you go and rewatch all these inane videos and threads, which did get deleted. Like it's all being, it has to go somewhere. I think this is why this approach is so genius because we are finally reclaiming that space that so many people are calling for from forces outside of themselves. There's so much of that, isn't there, online? You need to do this, you need to do that. What are we doing? So, with that, I think that's a beautiful way to explore the responsibility piece.
Mm.
It is a jump, but an area that I did want to explore is how did you decide to choose to hold space for women and be like, this is what I am supporting, this is what I'm tending to, giving presence to?
Mm. So I think initially it wasn't necessarily like a conscious choice. I feel like this is a theme again. And I hope that you listen to this by realizing you think you know where you're going, or you think you need to know with precision where you're going. And don't get me wrong, like having vision on where you're going is important, but also life will also do its thing. So I didn't really set out, I didn't come back from India and I was like, I'm only going to teach women. That's not how it went down at all. But I think with the women's circles, I found a level of maybe safety in being received and, getting into teaching and just putting myself out there, which is so vulnerable for all of you people who teach or hold space in whichever way you do. It's also allowing myself to be seen and getting mirrors. And the feedback that I would get from so many women is that the spaces I hold are so nurturing and nourishing, and that I have this like motherly energy, which makes me smile and baffles me because I don't necessarily think of myself in that way. Maybe now more and more because I have been doing this work for a few years and I get why people feel that way. I've chosen to focus on women because I don't have a relationship with my mother. She is not able to be a present figure in my life, and I have immense compassion and understanding for that because I don't think she was given the tools at all, the support at all that she needed at various stages of her life, which has resulted in her being an absent figure in her children and her family and every single person she's ever met's life. So I just feel that if she had been given spaces to be heard, to be supported, to be held, if she had been given tools to up her sense of self-worth, to find her voice, her own sense of power and direction, remembering that, you're not a victim to your life, to your circumstances. Yes, things might be hard, but there is always agency that can be found. I think things would have turned out really differently. So I have an incredible soft spot for mothers. I just think the whole world needs to revolve around mothers. It's interesting working with women who, I'm going to be 33 on Friday, and it baffles me. I think a few years ago, I worked with someone, and she told me that her birthday was 2002 or something. And I was like, oh my God, I'm 10 years older than you. And just having these younger women come into my field as well and realizing, like, wow, it's incredible how young women are doing this work of becoming more aware so much more earlier in life and gathering up these tools, which will change the whole face of mothering and the planet and whether you choose to birth children or not, but it's just like women in their power, the rise of the divine feminine and all of that stuff. If women are cared for, if mothers are cared for, then children are cared for. And that is how we care for the world. So I think I've kind of zeroed in on my mission of supporting women. Again, it's not necessarily about mothers. I don't know. Maybe the day I become a mother, things will shift even more in that direction. I don't know. I'm here to flow with it. But it's really this supporting of women, because if women are cared for as the nurturers of the world, then we will have a completely different world. And so if little me is like, I want to save the world, I want to change the world, it is the one at a time thing. And if I can help the 7 women who are in this container with me right now be in their power every day a little bit more, find their agency, know their boundaries, know their no, know that it's a full sentence, remember their creativity, their power, and pursue the things that bring them joy and leave what doesn't, and be in that supreme responsibility because you're alive and what a gift that is.
Mm.
Game changer. That's how this kind of has evolved into working with women. And I've got other, I'm also a Reiki practitioner, so I can also support in that way. And there's just all these different tools. But that's why when you asked me at the start of this conversation, how would you want to introduce yourself? I'm like, I really don't know. I just got a bunch of tools and I hold space in a few different ways that might resonate. There's a weekly class in a studio, which is very accessible. You can, if you're in London, you can come and do a sound bath or yin yoga and sound class. You can come to a circle. If you want some one-to-one support, you can do an energy healing session. You want to get into the daily practice? Let's do it. And that's the thing that I'm really keen to pursue now over the next, period of time, is cultivating this online community. I've cultivated an amazing in-person community, which baffles me every day, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm ready to take this further and to expand it beyond London and to make it accessible to people, because the sadhana one-to-one takes a lot of work from me. It takes a lot of work for you as well. And so to put it in a format that is, there's less room to debate with yourself. 7:30 a.m., this is what we do, even on the weekends. Yes, we're there showing up for it. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, it requires we make different decisions about when we go to bed. Are we drinking loads of wine the night before? Or are we, it creates this more conscious approach. And you might not want to do it every month, but when you're ready for a little bit more you time and just to shift things. It sounds so simple, but again, simple is worthy. In a world of complexity, go to the simple. That is a huge medicine of our time.
I feel like at this point, is there anything else that you want to be heard or understood by whoever may be listening? Are there any angles or edges which you'd like to bring into the light?
I feel like we've shared so much. I know it sounds so silly and you might not want to hear it again. Trust the process. Life has a way. There is an energy that holds the planets in their orbit, that grows the rose on the bush, that grows your eyelashes. Like, there is, whatever you believe or not believe in, there is something holding all of this together. Even though it seems like everything's unraveling, I know. But orient your attention towards that which is held together in a time and place where everything feels like it's dissolving. But if you can, take the micro experience of my life, of the dissolution, and how that creates opportunity for newness and things that are in more alignment. So yes, we're living through scary times. All of our points of references are shifting very quickly. And whilst that is scary, can we also believe in life and trust and keep the hope And that's why community is so important, because sometimes it's so much harder to do it on our own. And we also have been living in a paradigm that has socialized us and made us believe that solo is the way, that independence is the way, that you need to figure it out by yourself. If not, that means you are weak. No, lean into community, into your friends. If you don't feel like you have it, show up to something. Be brave because you're worth it. And it might take a few trials to figure out where you want to be, how you're going to connect, whether it's online or in person. Lean into community and keep believing in life.
I'm
The
gonna
way
make.
knows the way.
Oh, Nina, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I feel emotional, man. I'm not
Thank you
even
for
really
that
allowed to. I'm not allowed
invitation.
to cry on a podcast, but the feeling is there. Oh, you're so brilliant. I really want to honor all that you've been through, so that you can be here with us today. I think so often people, in avoidance of themselves, try and almost talk down the process of other people, but I really want to recognize and honor all that you do and show up for, and that fire that you keep walking through, and how much compassion you give to the discomfort, and that you meet people there. It's so powerful and so important, and is making such a brilliant impact on the world. So, really, thank you. I'm glad you got fired.
Me too. And that's why it's like, rejection is redirection, my friends. So you might be in the dark and have no clue where things are going, but pathways are being revealed as you take each step, one step at a time. So that's, I have no idea what's ahead. I'm just in it, and I'm only responding, meeting the moment as we go.
Thank you. So, for everyone who is seeking, Nina has got classes all throughout the week at various points throughout London. The daily practice is available. The Taurus cycle is starting on the 29th,
28th in 2 weeks on Monday.
28th of April. Not that I've got it bookmarked, I have. And then the circles are every new moon, full moon,
That's right.
in Clapham in London, for those who feel called. So Nina's Instagram is at Yiflow, Yiflow, and then yiflow.co.uk for the most beautiful website that has been recently birthed. So please go and enjoy those. Go and check out Nina's new photos that she's posted. And everyone get involved in the Nina movement. Thank you so much, Nina.
Thank you, Josie. Thanks so much.